Hello, everyone. My name is Bill White. I run the polling and market research company called LucidTalk based in Belfast. Hopefully, you've heard of us. And hopefully, also, you noticed that we've just recently run our quarterly autumn Northern Ireland tracker poll. And the results and commentary and analysis were covered in a couple of last week's editions of the Belfast Telegraph on the 12th and 13th of October. I should say full results now from the poll with all analyses and all the detail are now on the LucidTalk website as part of our latest news items. So if you want to really see the detail and core of the results, they're all on the LucidTalk website. But what I plan to do in this short video is just take you through two or three of the key results as we see them and look at one or two key demographic analyses and provide maybe one or two comments on some of the key conclusions that we think you can take from the poll project. So just with further ado, kicking off, maybe just show you some of the background. I'll just disappear from the video at this stage because it's important you see the data and the graphics that we're going to show you. And this is the background to the poll project. Poll was run on the 2nd to 5th of October, as you can see there, 2020. There's a sample size of 1,961. And we weighted all the data of that sample to be fully Northern Ireland representative, the right proportion of unionists, nationalists to nationalists, the right proportion of people from West Tyrone to South Belfast, young people, old people, etc. And so we can now say that these results represent Northern Ireland opinion to within an error of only plus or minus 2.3% either way, as it says at the bottom there. So without further ado, this is probably the major poll question. If there were to be a Northern Ireland Assembly election held tomorrow, which political party would you vote for as a first preference? The dark blue is the poll results in terms of our projected vote share, projected Northern Ireland vote share for each of these political parties if there were to be a Northern Ireland Assembly election. And the grey column is the results of the Northern Ireland Assembly election 2017 as a comparison in terms of vote share. I should say you'll see in all the graphics, the poll question is right at the top of the graphic in light brown. You see it there at the top of this graphic. So we see the DUP, we're projecting if there were to be a Northern Ireland Assembly election, would score 23% of the Northern Ireland-wide vote share. Sinn Féin would get 24%, Alliance 16%, you see it there. And you see there the DUP and Sinn Féin are down 3 or 4 points, notably down on their performance at the Northern Ireland Assembly election 2017. Alliance are 6 or 7 points up, a big improvement on Alliance, but that sort of fits in with their recent performances in 2019, particularly the 2019 Westminster election. SDLP are up slightly, TUP down, and the TUV have jumped 2 or 3 points, perhaps maybe at the expense of the DUP. And what we did then was we actually put these results in a little bit more easier to read graphic. And these are the same results, of course. These are the projected vote shares, and the figures, the smaller figures in brackets, are the difference between that party's performance, this is the poll share that we're projecting, and that party's performance at the 2017 Northern Ireland Assembly election, the most recent Northern Ireland Assembly election. Because it's better in these situations to compare like with like. Trying to compare an Assembly election to a Westminster election is a little bit unskewed or skewed because, there are vote packs in the Westminster election in North Belfast between the Unionist parties and from South Tyrone, etc. So these are the same results. TUV up 3 points. DUP and Sinn Féin down notably, but the big story is the big jump for the Alliance Party there, now comfortably Northern Ireland's third largest party. And then question 2, we'll quickly move on to. And this question asked, again at the top, you see it there in the light brown, that's the poll question. How do you rate the following party political leaders' performance in terms of their overall performance since the start of 2020? Now, we realize technically some of these people listed and that we asked about aren't technically party leaders of their political parties. Michelle O'Neill's a deputy leader. But we were talking in the context of a Northern Ireland-wide poll here. And Michelle O'Neill is leader of Sinn Féin. She's in the 6 counties, and she's deputy first minister. Likewise, Jerry Carroll is the only MLA that people before profit have, even though PBP themselves have a collective leadership. So, we're looking at political leaders here, not necessarily political party leaders, though the question does say that admittedly. Arlene Foster, the Green is a great performance. That means 36% of Northern Ireland scored Arlene as a good performer or a great performer. 38% scored her as a bad performer or awful performer. You can see it there on the left-hand side. Michelle O'Neill got a very bad negative score of 61%. We'll see where that comes from in a couple of illustrations' time. But the overall winner on the right-hand side, you can see there is Colin Eastwood. He is the overall most positive score, 47% positive, 25% negative. Naomi Long comes in second at 42% positive, 31% negative. Claire Bailey and Jerry Carroll get a lot of don't know, not sure. Probably this question is a bit unfair to them, but they don't have as high a profile as the other leaders who are listed, mainly because of the coronavirus emergency. They're not on the media as much, etc., as those other leaders. What political parties then do to make it a little bit more readable again is they take the good score, the green score, if you like, and they take away the red score. And you get an overall rating. So as you see, Arlene Foster, if you recall, got 36% negative, 36% positive, 38% negative, and she therefore ends up with a rating of -2. You see it there on the left-hand side. Michelle O'Neill, -39. You've already seen the very large negative score for Michelle O'Neill, so that hits her, as it were. She's -39. Overall winners, we've already said, is Colin Eastwood with +22. Naomi Long coming in second at +11. And then the other scores you can see there, Steve Aiken, slightly negative, -14, same as Jim Allister on -11. Now, the key thing here, what we did then, to look at one of the demographic analyses, is we took the negative scores only. You know, these are the negative scores, if you recall from the graphic. Do you remember Arlene Foster got 38% negative? You see it there on the left-hand side. The red columns are the actual bad or very bad results for each of the top 5 political leaders. We just looked at the executive political parties only, the big 5, as it were. And we tried to see how did they get these negative results? What communities did they come from? And if we look at Michelle O'Neill there, we see 86% of unionists, people who vote DUP, UUP, TUV, 86% scored her as bad or very bad. But 31% of nationalists also scored her as bad or very bad, if you see it there. That's the SDLP and Sinn Féin voters. But also, equally significantly, 59% of the Lions Green Others voting bloc scored Michelle O'Neill as bad or a very bad performer since the start of 2020, as we can see from the poll question at the top. And that leads to that overall negative score of 61%. And you look at see the similar patterns there in the other leaders as well. Notably, you see on the right-hand side there, Naomi Long gets a reasonably negative score from the unionist community, or higher than the other groups, as it were, of 37%. And this fits in with previous polling. There is a section of the unionist community don't rate Naomi Long or either don't like her, and she does tend to get negative scores from DUP, TUV, and UUP voters in terms of her leadership performance. So that gives you the pattern there of how these negative scores for each of the top 5 political leaders came from. So then we asked a coronavirus question, related question, as it were, to do with a couple of the incidents that have happened during the coronavirus emergency. The Bobby Story funeral incident, to give it that term, and also Sammy Wilson and his not wearing of a face mask on the London Tube. And we asked Northern Ireland, do you think those 2 incidents will have a very bad impact, somewhat bad impact, or a good impact, or very good, or will have no good or bad impact either way on both, respectively, of these political parties, Sinn Féin and the DUP? And we see, for example, in Sammy Wilson, 61% of Northern Ireland think it will have no impact either way, 45% less so with Bobby Story. What Northern Ireland is saying there is that the Bobby Story funeral incident has going to have more impact on Sinn Féin than the Sammy Wilson incident is going to have on the DUP. And this is a Northern Ireland representative result. And you see the red means, it's going to have a bad impact. The bright red means it's going to be a very bad impact. You can see the key there on the results graphic. And probably the most interesting way, though, to look at this is by the DUP and Sinn Féin voter bases only. And this is what DUP voters scored this question. 72%, not surprisingly, think the Sammy Wilson incident is going to have no effect either way. But there is, 25%, 1 in 4 again, of the DUP voter base think it might have some bad impact on the DUP. Remember, this is not asking whether you're going to vote DUP. Maybe these people are saying, well, I'm going to continue to vote DUP, but, I know Harry or somebody down the road, and he doesn't like it. He used to vote DUP, but he's not going to vote DUP anymore, So it's that sort of feeling. But not surprisingly, DUP voters have a very negative view of the Bobby Story incident. They think it's really going to affect Sinn Féin, and it's very bad for Sinn Féin or whatever, 33% and 22%. And again, similarly, if we look at what the Sinn Féin voter base think of these questions, we see they think 70%, Sinn Féin, 70% of Sinn Féin voters think the Sammy Wilson incident will have no impact either way on the DUP. Now, a lower number, the interesting thing is what they think of their own party. 64% yes of Sinn Féin voters think the Bobby Story funeral incident will have no good or bad impact either way. But 25%, you see it there on the very left-hand side, 25%, nearly one in four, think it will have a very bad impact or somewhat bad impact. Admittedly, 22% of them somewhat bad impact. So there's a bit of a worry there within the Sinn Féin voter base. 1 in 4 of their voters think it could have a bit of a bad impact. They didn't particularly like the incident, that type of thing. So that's, I think, noteworthy in that question. Then if we look at question 4, this was asking what could compare the health impact of the coronavirus emergency or the financial impact. Which would you view, which worries you more? That is the question at the top, as you can see it. The green is the financial impact of the coronavirus. The red is the health impact. Overwhelmingly, Northern Ireland are worried about the health impact, 67%. But noteworthy, that 27% is quite high. And if we did the analysis of this question by unionists and nationalists, Republicans and Alliance voters, and that's all in the report. We don't have time to show it here, but it does show the trend that unionists are more worried about the financial impact of the economy and people losing their jobs. Still majority of unionists have health as the number one issue, but less so than nationalists. The red bit for unionists is around 58-59%, with the green bit at 31%. For nationalist Republicans, the green bit is at 12%, the red bit's at about 80%. But again, all the detail of that is in the reports on the latest news item on the LucidTalk website. And just finishing off question 6, we jumped question 5 because it was to do with the pub shutting at 11. And because we're now in another lockdown, that's gone a bit out of date. But all the results again of question 5, if you want to look at it, they're in the reports on the LucidTalk website in the latest news item. And this is about Brexit and the borders. Which would you prefer? If there's going to be a trade-off between a border in the Irish Sea or a border in the island of Ireland, which would you prefer? And the green bit means you'd prefer customs checks between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, but we see the majority of Northern Ireland would prefer, and if there has to be border checks at all, they would prefer the customs checks to be between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. They'd prefer the border down the Irish Sea. Now, this sort of fits in with the Remain Leave pattern from the EU referendum in 2016, when Northern Ireland voted 56% Leave, 44%. There's 56% Remain, 44% Leave, if you recall, and sort of the similar sort of pattern. We did analyse this for Remain Leave voters, and Remain, not surprisingly, Remain voters from 2016 much prefer the border, overwhelmingly prefer the border in the Irish Sea, and Leave voters prefer the border on the island of Ireland between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. That finishes off. Just to finish off, just to let you see the full reports, and there's a lot more analysis and commentary on the Belfast Telegraph website. And as already said several times, full results reports, including the data tables with nominated data, analysed by all the major demographics, are all in the latest news item on the LucidTalk website. And of course, you can follow LucidTalk on Twitter at LucidTalk, and on Facebook as well, LucidTalk. So that's me come back again just to say thank you very much. I hope you find that a little bit interesting. There's a quick 100 miles an hour summary of the key results. And but as I say, there's a lot more detail on the LucidTalk website and on the Belfast Telegraph website. So hope to see you the next time when we'll do another whole report video, and hope you enjoyed it. Until then, thanks for your attention, and bye-bye.